Hello everyone and welcome to Slow Stitch Style. I'm Katherine and this is my little corner of the internet where I talk about all things making. So for today's episode I wanted to do more of a podcast style, so talking about what I've been making, what I finished, what I'm still working on, and also about some acquisitions, so new things that I've added to my collection. But before we get started on that, I did want to talk just about a few other things before we get into my finished objects. And the first thing I want to talk about was a new skill that I've learned since the last podcast. So I would say my last video came out 2 weeks ago, but it's been about 3 weeks since I've recorded it, and I have also been off work. So I'll also preface that what I make in this podcast will probably be a lot more than typically, because I do work full time. But yeah, I've had 2 weeks off, it's been great. And then before we were off, Graham, my partner, and I went to a spoon carving workshop and we carved some spoons. So this is a new skill that I learned. So the workshop was with Paul Adamson, who's a colleague of mine actually, but also an incredible woodworker. And I think it's like Green Woodcraft. I'll link his Instagram below so you can go and have a look. And the workshop sort of took you from how you get to a piece of like a log and then into a spoon. It was really interesting and a really good day, and Paul is a fantastic teacher. Graham and I have been to other workshops where it's like a mix of like people who really know what they're doing and pure beginners like we were. And Paul balanced that really well and was really helpful and good. You do need a lot of wrist strength, I will say that, and I do get a lot of wrist pain, particularly my right wrist. So there were some bits where I struggled, but that is just a me thing. Graham did a great job. So that's Graham's spoon here. So they're not, they've been drying basically, and we need to sand them before we varnish them. And then that one's mine underneath. So yeah. So we made some spoons, so that was really fun. As I said, had a great day, learned a new craft and a new skill. So yeah, that was really enjoyable. And also I want to talk about what I'm wearing today, because I know in a lot of knitting podcast people do that. So today I've got sweater number 9 light on. It's patterned by My Favourite Things Knitwear. I had originally bought this yarn and I think I made a ribs jumper from Petite Knit, but I didn't like it. So I pulled it out and I started again and knit this instead. And generally I do like it. It's a really nice jumper to have at home to just like pull over things. So it's quite long in the body, a nice deep rib at the bottom, a nice deep rib on the sleeve, and the neck is a high neck and it's a raglan sleeve construction. I will say I do find with the neck, sort of the turtleneck, and I apologise because I realised in the last video I was calling turtlenecks polo necks, soz. But yeah, the turtleneck, the high neck on it, it does have a tendency for where it sits on me to sort of rumple a bit, which I don't love, but I wear it all the time still, so you know, yeah. So that's what I'm wearing, and yeah, like I said, we've been off for a couple of weeks. We've spent a bit of time away, went up to stay near Haworth. So I live in the Midlands of the UK and Haworth is north for us. And then we went and spent a bit of time in Cambridgeshire, which is east. And it's in Cambridgeshire that I bought quite a bit of stuff. So thank you to people on Instagram who recommended places to visit, but I'll talk about that later. First of all, we're going to talk about finished objects. In my last video, I was talking about scrap projects, and a lot of my finished objects are actually things from the scrap video. So it's really been a good month for working on those things. And one of the first things I finished was the quilt. So all I had to do was bind the edges. So I made some bias binding using the Japanese cloth that I had, and then sewed that on. Originally, I was thinking of hand sewing it, and then I decided not to because I just spent hours on this quilt, and I think by that stage I was just like, just get an edge on. So yeah, it is now finished, the front and the back. So yeah, that was the first thing that I finished last month, and I feel a bit, I think I always feel a bit sad when I have finished hand sewing projects, because I do like something that I can stitch on in the evenings and sew by hand. But hey ho, there is other stuff coming up. And then the other things that I finished, I just grabbed them off the table to the side here, are also little scrap projects that I mentioned. So we'll just stick with the sewing for now, and I'll show this is Luna. So I mentioned that I had bought the Luna Le Pin and Friends book, so I actually made her, this is out of a white cotton that I made a shirt from, and she has some lovely button eyes and a little silk nose. I'm not sure if that's really focusing, but yeah. And I had also mentioned how I'd made Graham this coat, the Langate coat from Merchant & Mills, in this oilcloth. So I managed to make a little coat for Luna and some little wellies, which, yeah. I've also made a little wrap top, because it was a dress in the pattern, but I didn't have quite enough of this white linen, creamy linen. And then I've made a little shirt, which some of you might recognise. I think I wore the shirt that I have made out of this fabric in my last video. I'm not sure I stuffed her enough, because her head is very flopsy. And actually, I think I'm not going to call her Luna. I think I'm going to call her Rosie Rabbit. So Rosie Rabbit, yeah, as I said, she's made from a white shirt material. I did interface it, and then also she's stuffed with lots of fabric scraps. So I cut up lots of bits of white fabric into like really small bits, and then use that to stuff her. It's been quite fiddly making this stuff. Unsurprisingly, it's very small, and also like the pattern asks you to make the Luna and her friends out of felt, and there is a reason for that, because you should be stitching a lot of her body parts together on the outside, whereas I was like, I'm just going to sew it inside and turn it inside out. But that means there's some really quite tight turning circles, and even like on the little wellies, there's really tight turning circles on the bottom of the shoes. And the oilcloth is like not a forgiving fabric. So it was quite difficult, but she is very sweet. I also do have a cat cut out ready to make as well, but I think I made all of that in a bit of a flurry and then wore myself out of it. So I paused that for a bit. So that was like one of the next things that I made. And then I got on to some knitting projects. So when I go away on holiday, we sort of always book like a nice little cottage, and I take other knitting projects. But I think I actually might finish these. These are the fingerless mitts that I mentioned in the scrap video. They look like absolutely tiny when you aren't wearing them. And I have to admit, I don't think I have big hands, but they are quite tight. So that's what they look like on. And I should also say I've not blocked them. So they do need to block, and maybe that would make them a bit better. I think I might have gone up a needle size from what was recommended too, because I was worried about that. But it did end up using most of the Rowan Kid Silk that I had. I still got a little bit left, and I still have some of the Cascade yarn left as well. So these need blocking, but they are finished. They were a really quick project. I think I finished them in a couple of evenings, which, if you knit, you know that's fast, and I'm not a fast knitter. So I was really happy with that. And then when we went away to Haworth, I took another knitting project, but I also took the yarn for the number 19 balaclava. I'll just pop this on. Yeah. I've realised I'm not sure what I think about balaclavas on. They're not the most flattering, are they? Because it's just like totally on your face. But it is very warm, and again, oof, it does need blocking. So yeah, it's not a perfect shape. Really enjoyed knitting this. I should have said on the scrap video, the pattern is in German, and although I did German at school, it was not good enough to translate this, so Google had to come to the rescue and sort of using my intuition, because it didn't translate perfectly. The one thing I will say about it, and I'm not sure if this is the pattern or if it's just me and my sewing, so you knit in the round for the neckline, then you sort of knit back and forth around the hood. You hold some stitches here, then you knit this top section, and then you sew along this edge. And I do find that it's quite pointy at these corner bits and doesn't look fantastic. But maybe a block will sort that out, and maybe that's just how it is with balaclavas. So it's the first one I've made. I do really like it. I actually have a fair bit of this yarn left still, so now I still need to figure out what to do with that. Luna might get a jumper, so yeah. That was another thing that I finished this month, and like I said, some serious blocking needs to happen. And then I nearly forgot to talk about this one, but one last finished object was the star garland. So I'll insert an image because I don't have it because it's currently hanging up in my bedroom. So I finished that. I originally had sewn them all in a different way, but the intention was always to get some fairy lights. And then I decided once we got those, I crocheted around them and then suspended the stars down at regular intervals. And I think it just adds bit of cozy warmth into our bedroom, so I'm really happy with that. And that's used up all of that yellowy yarn that I had left over. I think it's a Debbie Bliss Sapphire that I'd used in the fun jumper for Graham. So yeah, used up all of that stash, which is a great feeling. And then my most recent finished object is these. It's 4 pairs of period pants. So I ended up cutting all the remaining materials I had in the kit for the period pants by Sophie Hines. So the kit comes with a waterproof layer, a wicking layer, and then an absorbent layer. And I'd already made 1 pair, and I managed to, like I said, get 4 more. I was quite creative with how I was cutting out. I don't know if you're meant to be, the proof will be in the pudding when I actually wear them properly. So this pair that I made is in the same black jersey material as my first pair, and I've made a turtleneck out of this. The next 2 are in a black rib jersey. Again, I've made a turtleneck out of these, and before I put the elastic on these, I was a little bit worried because it's quite a stretchy jersey, and I thought, oh no, I've used a jersey that has too much give in. But yeah, they seem fine now. And then the last pair is a black bamboo jersey. And the first thing I made in the bamboo jersey in my sewing machine, like, just really struggled with the machine, despite the fact that I was using ballpoint or stretch needles. I think I tried lots of things, but seemed to be absolutely fine with this. And bamboo jersey feels so nice. So I'm actually really looking forward to maybe like buying some more bamboo jersey to make some more underwear in the future, because it has that really nice soft feel, which is really nice against the skin. So yeah, 4 pairs of those. So that was sort of today finishing off, and yesterday. And it was a good excuse to go through all my elastics that I had, because I think at one point I really thought I was going to get into lingerie making, and that's just not my vibe. I'm like bralette and simple pants type of gal. Maybe too much information, but hey. So I've kind of gone through all the elastic and got rid of strap elastic, and I've kept a lot of the fold over and picot. And yeah, I think making these, I realised it's not that hard to make pants, and why don't I do it more often? But it's like that part of like garment making that I always tend to avoid. Not sure where that comes from, but hey ho. So yeah, that's the last of all the finished objects. So that's everything I've made in the last 3 weeks. Yeah, that I've completed as well. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. And now let's go on to the stuff that I am currently working on. WIPs time, or works in progress for those of you who aren't sure of the acronym. So I'm going to be bending down a few times just to pick up stuff. I think in the past I've mentioned that I have a basket in my sewing room that has all my sewing works in progress in, and I organise them into like project bags. I think I went to a sewing social once and saw someone who'd got them in bags like this and was like, what a good idea. So yeah, we'll go through those first, and then I'll go to the knitting works in progress. So the first thing that I just want to carry on while we're on the underwear thing is, in this project bag is more underwear cut out of the white jersey this time. So I think I cut out 2 or 3 pairs of pants, of the jersey pants, and 2 bras, one with the long line and one with the short. So I think that's going to be my making project tomorrow, on Sunday, before going back to work on Monday. The next thing I also have in my sewing projects cut out ready to go is a pair of Simplicity trousers. So Simplicity S8956. I've already made them in this view. I'm going to make them in the B view, where it doesn't have quite a fancy waistband. I think I've just been avoiding them. I think I mentioned before, I avoid trousers because it's difficult. The fit's always difficult for me, and I don't really like toiling loads. I guess I get quite impatient with making sometimes, so they're there. Also, this next project bag is baby grows, so I have a couple of baby grows cut out. I shared some of those in the last stash video. So one is in this sort of white cotton, and with this one I'm going for a long sleeve view with a frill around the neck. The other one's in the double gauze, which I think I'm still doing a frill, but a short sleeved one, because the double gauze is a bit thicker. And also in here is another baby grow that I had already cut out, or Sydney romper, sorry, they're called. And that again is a short sleeved one. And I'll get that sewn out. I think the thing I really like about the baby stuff and also the underwear is it's quite small to cut out, and I can do that in my hobby room upstairs. So Graham and I live in a 2-bedroom house, and our spare room is what we call the hobby room. So Graham has a desk where he does his hobby stuff, and I have a desk where I do mine, and mine's topped with like a nice bigger than A2 cutting mat. So I cut out on there smaller stuff like the pants, like the baby grows, and then anything bigger I have to do in our dining room. And Graham made me a special table topper that I do put on, and I have like leg risers, so it's all nice and comfy. It's a very nice cutting space. But yeah, the smaller projects are nice to do that. And I think I'll batch sew these, particularly the white baby grows, like I batch sewed the period pants. It's quite nice to just do the same thing sometimes. And then the last project, sewing work in progress project, I mean, this is just at the very, very start, is this is like the patchwork bag. So I think I mentioned in the scraps video, I wanted to make a cushion cover with the rest of the fabric left over from the quilt. And then this is a very scrappy piece of paper where I was sort of trying to figure out how much of each colour I had left and how I was going to arrange it for these patchwork cushions. So everything is cut out into pieces big enough and ready to go. And then also in here, I cut out some more hexagons the other day because I'm thinking of doing some English paper piecing. We shall see where that goes. I should probably focus on the other one first. And yeah, also in here is my little sewing kit. My friend made me this years and years ago. Still use it, still works. So put my little thimbles here, needles that I'm using, and then all the other bits and bobs in there. Scissors are normally in there, but they've fallen out. And I've got, I couldn't decide which colour thread to use for the hand stitching, the green, khaki green, or like this stone colour. So I will decide when I get to it. So there are all the sewing whips. It's funny because I sometimes like to think I'm quite a monogamous maker, but clearly not. I like to have lots of different things on the go, so I can dip in and out really. I think I've always been a bit like that with crafting. You know, some days you want to really focus on something, you need something that you can pay super lots of attention to, and then other times you want something that is quite mindless. And then we'll move on to the knitting whips then now. And speaking of mindless, this is a jumper I have been making for Graham. It's currently on hold. I took the needles off to knit my jumper at the minute. This is, I'm just going to look at my notes here, the Lardell pullover by Sanders Garn. I will definitely write that because I am not saying that right. The yarn for this is Roma Garn, and it's the colourway 4132. So it's like this really nice burgundy colour. Hopefully that is focusing. And originally I had used some of this to make myself the festive pullover, which I did knit last year, and then quickly realised it's not really my colour. I'd seen other people make the festive pullover in this, and I think I got carried away in that I really liked it. Whereas actually this is much more of a colour like Graham would wear. And then I'm using that with their sort of neutral colour, which is a 4078, to do the colour work at the top. So this is a steeped jumper. At the minute, it was just like lots of plain knitting in the round, and I think I was just bored by it. And at the time when I was working on this was when I was getting quite bad wrist pain, and I was just finding that it wasn't helping. Although I think my wrist pain actually isn't knitting related, because on holiday over the last couple of weeks I've been knitting loads and haven't been experiencing it. So maybe it's more like phone and computer use, but we'll see. So yeah, that's in this knitting project bag, and my deadline for that is Christmas time. So I just feel like I'm not super invested in making that at the moment. And I have to admit, I have been very distracted knitting my poppy sweater, which is here. So this has been like my holiday work in progress. So it is the colour work vest. So it's all knit in the round, and I've this bit up to here is the body area, and then we've got to the steeking section. So here is the steeking channels. That one that I've just showed you is for an arm, and then you've got the steeking channel at the front here, which will be for the V-neck neckline, and then the other arm, which I've not knit a vest in colour work in the round. I have done a jumper, but yeah, it's a little bit different. And also the other jumper that I made was for Graham, didn't end up fitting, so I do wear it. But this is much more like colours that I've chosen, and I'm really happy with it so far. I think it's looking really good. I find colourworks like it's quite moreish to knit, because it's obviously very repetitive, but you are moving on to different things all the time. And as I mentioned last time, it's a pattern by Marianne Stevens. I pretty much used all the colours that she does recommend in the pattern. I think I swapped 2 out. Sorry, I'm just consulting my bits of notes. So yeah, so the colours I changed is that in the original she recommended using the colour called Poppy, which is a red, but I decided to go for Peony, which is like this purpley red. The colour of peonies, it's beautiful. I've been really attracted to like these like plummy pinky purple colours, so that's what I swapped out. And then the other colour I swapped out, there was a colour called Tangerine, and I went for Cornfield instead, which is more yellow. So I went from orangey to yellowy. I just thought that would work more with the palette that I'm working on. So yeah, I'm currently about here on the chart. So this is the rest of the bit that I've got to knit. So it won't be long, and then it will be cutting the steeks and doing the rib around the arms and the neckline. So yeah, let's see how that goes over the next couple of things. Yeah, it looks really nice from afar. I'm really excited, and I can't wait to see what that's like once it's blocked. I'm hoping I have enough yarn, because I did buy my yarn based on other people who had knit the medium size rather than what the yarn quantities were, as I do have a tendency to overbuy. And I find particularly like with colourwork stuff, I do colourwork so infrequently, you just get left with all these balls of Jamieson's, and it's a Jameson Shetland Spindrift that I'm working with. So I don't know, last time I got confused. But they're all on my Ravelry, and I've linked them all, and I'll measure them all once I've finished as well, to get a true representation of how much yarn I use on this project. So yeah, that's currently, I think, everything that I'm working on. So quite a lot of stuff, and even with the sewing stuff, I'm not sure at what stage I should be like, I'm working on it. Like, once something's cut out, are you technically working on it? Because those trousers have been there for months. So yeah, I'll be interested to hear what people think. Like, and also at what point does something become finished? Is a knitting project finished when she finished knitting it, or once it's blocked and ends are sewn in? And I should say, actually, on sewing in ends, I have been being good with this vest and sewing them in along the way. Although it does say when you get to the steeking channel at the start of the row that you don't need to. So they've been left for now, but I do tend to sew in along the way, because otherwise I just know it would be awful. Awful at the end when you get to loads of sewing and you think you're done and you're not. So yeah, this is the current knitting project that I have living downstairs, and it lives in this basket next to the sofa. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with all the stuff that I'm working on. I'd like to get back to Graham's jumper in the future, But some of the acquisitions I've had may waylay those plans. So let's get into talking about all the things that I have acquired lately. I'm enjoying a cup of tea while I'm filming today, and this is actually a new acquisition here. I didn't make it. It's a really lovely mug. I can't remember the designer's name, but when we talk about some of the stuff, it's a ceramicist who is in the same sort of courtyard area that Backstitch is in Cambridgeshire. So when we went to Cambridgeshire, someone recommended Backstitch, I think, to me. And it's in this little, it's on like the west side of Cambridgeshire. I always have to do like north, south, never each other week, west. And also in that courtyard is like this really nice deli. There was a cafe, but we went on the day when it was really high winds in the UK. And I think they'd lost power. I don't know if it was related to the high winds. I'm just assuming that's the case. So I bet that's nice, but we did get food at the deli as well, very nice. So there's Backstitch, there's all other shops like clothing shops, and then there's a ceramicist, and this mug is beautiful. So it's like all speckly, and it's really big, so it's like perfect to hold. And then at the bottom of it is a little expletive that says F the patriarchy. So it's just a little bit of fun, a nice fun mug. So I'll just have another swig before I talk about all the other stuff that I bought. I'll just pull them over. If I was more organised, I would have done that in between. So excuse me, but yeah. This is a sort of pile of things that I bought. So we'll talk about the stuff that I got at Backstitch first, and then we'll talk about yarn. So Backstitch, as I mentioned, is it was a beautiful little shop on the edge of Cambridgeshire. And it sells a range of knitting and sewing stuff. And I had looked at their website before I went down because I knew that there was going to be stuff that I wanted. And it's funny because I also asked for recommendations for yarn shops and sewing shops near Haworth, but we didn't do any of that at the start of the holiday. And that was actually just before my birthday. And then when we went to Cambridgeshire, it had been my birthday. I'd received some birthday money from family. And yeah, these things happen. So one of the first things that, in fact, I'll just show you the fabric stack. Here we go. There's lots of blues, as you can tell. I am in a blue phase. I recently redid mine and Graham's style boards, which I think I'll talk about in another video, but if people are interested in that, let me know. But yeah, I think I didn't really have the intent of buying much, but I knew that anything I would buy, I needed to know what I wanted to do with it. So one of the first things that I picked up is this viscose twill. And I don't normally work with viscose, and I think I've worked with it once before and I don't love it, but the colour is just so nice and beautiful drape. And I mentioned in my 2025 planning video how I'd made the Anne Klein for Vogue shirt, and I'd made it out of this sort of lining fabric, and then I wanted to make it again, and if I could find a really nice blue, that would be more ideal. And actually, since the last podcast as well, I had ordered some bamboo silk swatches from Ray Stitch. I got like their pinky colour, which was more peachy. There's a silvery colour, which was really nice. And then there was a like bluey, kind of like petrol-y blue is what I'd describe it as. And they're all beautiful, but it was like £22 a metre. And I was getting like really conflicted around, do I want to make a shirt that's that much? I don't know how much I'd wear it. I didn't love any of the colours massive. Like the silver was nice and I could imagine wearing it. But yeah, and then I saw this fabric in Backstitch and I thought, that's going to become the Anne Klein shirt take 2. So I think I got 2 meters of that. Yeah, all of this needs washing. Haven't washed anything yet. So yeah, the viscose, and I can't remember what else was there. Maybe like a spandex or something. So beautiful. And then the rest, we have jerseys. So not really the season to be making jersey t-shirts, but when you find a good jersey, pick it up is what I say. And clearly you can tell we have a striped thing going on in this house. So I picked up this colourway, which is like a denim blue and white stripe. and I'll be making a basic instinct tee for myself. I realised in my wardrobe I don't really have a lot of short sleeve t-shirts, so this is gonna get added into that mix. As I said, not really the time of year for t-shirts, but I do find that like I really like a really basic, simple, like the basic instinct top must be one of my most made patterns. I've made it at least 4 or 5 times for myself, and then I've taken the shaping out of it and made it for Graham. Probably the same, and then he's gonna get one in this olive and white stripe. Again, when you find a really nice jersey, pick it up, because I'm gonna be quite fussy, and the weight's really quite nice. It's sort of a mid-weight, so drapey enough, but light enough as well. So I'm excited about those two as well. And then the shirting fabrics were what really had stood out to me about Backstitch on their website. And yeah, I was like, I'm gonna get some shirting when I'm there. And I did. So I ended up getting 2 shirting fabrics, and I also got a pattern for a shirt. So I have 2 shirt patterns that I wear for myself, or 3. I have the Ashlyn blouse and dress, which I'm feeling a bit conflicted about. So we'll leave that there. But then the Bella shirt I love, but it is really oversized. And then I have a V&A shirt. They did a free pattern with Alice & Co. I think that's the designer's name, but that's like the placket goes to about here, which is beautiful. And I do actually want to make myself an uncollared version of that soon in like a cream or a taupe colour. But yeah. When I was looking around at Backstitch, I was looking at patterns as well, and I think I'd favourited this on the forward line. I'd definitely seen it before. So it's the Batana button-up by the Friday Pattern Company, and I just think it's just so fun. So it's still quite a relaxed fit of shirt, but it's not quite as oversized as the Leo shirt, and I just really love the little tie around it, so you can see the views on the back there. Hopefully it will focus, maybe not. You can make it in a long sleeve and with the tie, without the tie, or a short sleeve, and I really like that as well, because I find I wear the Gilbert top an awful lot, and I've made multiple versions of that because I love wearing shirts, or like even a casual shirt. I think I found my style that I really like wearing, like I can do smart all the time. Like I love like smart top, smart trousers. I love casual top, smart trousers. I love smart top, like a nice Gilbert top, which I'm calling that smart, but it's like smart casual with a pair of jeans. Like I just love that versatility. I love a shirt with a pair of jeans. I don't love, say, like a t-shirt with a pair of jeans. I don't like looking too casual. I always like this to be some element of tailoring, I suppose, is what I'm trying to actually get at. So I picked this up, and I have to admit, I just love the view that's on the pattern. So that's why I picked up this. It's a yarn dyed stripe fabric. And I think it's meant to be a black colour, but because of the way it's dyed and the way it's woven, it's quite more like a light grey. And I did and ah a little bit before picking this up, because I am trying to buy less black moving forward. So yeah, moving forward with my wardrobe, I want to try and start introducing more colour, but I always tend to gravitate to the same colours, which are blues and blacks and greys. And so the blue can stay, but yeah, I just really did love it. And I think making a view like that would be fantastic. So that become a long sleeve version. So that's exciting. And then I came across this seersucker. So it's like a gingham. Oh my days. Like, I think I mentioned I'm not really one for pattern, but if you give me a stripe, or if you give me a check or a gingham, I am all there. And again, if I share my style boards, I think I said I'll do it in another video, but my style boards is just stripes and ginghams and checks. And this is a really like lovely navy colour. And I just think that making the short sleeve version of this with the necktie would be so cute. Like, just so nice. You could wear it with a pair of jeans in the summer. I have this really nice pair of tailored shorts that I could wear it with some nice navy trousers for work. I think it's really nice. I love seersucker. It has this really nice texture and makes it interesting. So yeah, very excited about this, and I was speaking to the lady in the shop as well, and we were both talking about how much we loved the bow on this. So yeah, I'll make it up, and if anybody wants like pattern reviews, let me know. I don't think I was planning to do that sort of thing, but maybe a little vlog, sewing vlog. I said let me know what type of stuff you'd like to see. So that was all the fabric that I got at Backstitch, and then I picked up some more sock yarn from Coop Knits. I really like her sock share yarn. This is like, it's very dark in the house today, sorry, it's very autumnal. It's like, Graham said it's purpley, I think it's like a navy blue. The colour's called Benetote. Again, I've probably said that wrong. I bought 2 skeins of this from Backstitch with the intention of knitting some socks for my dad and his partner at Christmas. I don't imagine they're going to watch this video and know, but I'll definitely knit her some, and I'll see about my dad because he has big feet. But yeah, so I got 2. I haven't decided what socks I'm going to make with them yet, so we shall see. I'm thinking like a texture rather than any colour work. Maybe some nice cables. So if anyone's got any good texture sock recommendations, let me know. So yeah, just a really nice colour. I mean, to be honest, I said I did buy it with the intention of making presents, but I love it enough that I'm like, maybe I can make myself some socks. And actually, speaking of sock yarn, when I was staying near Haworth, we went to Hebden Bridge for the day, and there's an art shop there that I've forgotten the name of, but it's like art supplies, crafting supplies, and they did have a very good range of yarn, and I was looking at the time and I did see a really beautiful sock yarn. I think it must have been locally dyed because it was like £22 for a skein, for a 100-gram skein, so not the cheapest, but it was like this, I don't know if it was called Air Force Blue, I think it was something to do with like air, military, what's it? Well, you know, Army in the Sky, whatever they're called. And it was beautiful, but I just don't feel like I can justify knitting myself more socks because I have a lot of socks that I've knit and I don't wear them all the time. I tend to just wear them at home. And actually, I think my next video for October, we'll talk about Socktober and all the things that I've knit sock-wise in the past and my thoughts on sock knitting. So I won't go too much into that. But following on from the yarn, we also have more yarn acquisitions, and I should say I didn't intend to go on holiday and buy all of this, and I was like, I'm not really going to try and buy more yarn, but also it's not very often that I am at places where they have really good quality yarn, and I really want to move forward, like moving forward, I really want to make sure that I'm buying yarn in person or buying fabric in person and trying to resist the lure of online shopping, because I just find that never goes well. So when we're in Cambridge itself, is Cambridge a city? I don't know. Well, anyway, while we were there, we went to a shop called Knit Sew Craft, yeah. Again, had a fantastic range of yarn downstairs, and then upstairs there's lots of fabric, but more like crafting cotton. So if that's what you're interested in, I definitely recommend upstairs. So we went in at the start of our visit in Cambridge. Then I left because I needed some thinking time because I'd already bought all this fabric and that yarn. And then we went back, and the thing that had been catching my eye the first time around was this. So this is the Croft DK by West Yorkshire Spinners, and this is in the colourway Breze. I don't know how true it will look on the screen, but it's kind of this like pinky purple colour, and it's really interesting. I find I'm drawn to the same sorts of colours, and that's often like really dusty pinks, or dusky like a dusk night sky, into purples, like I love like lavenders and sort of deep heathery colours, and I also love like steely blues into grey. And I have decided for myself that I'm a soft summer colour palette. If anyone's done colour analysis, I actually haven't had it done properly, and I have been umming and ahhing about it. A colleague at work has had it done and really rates it, But the thing is, I've looked at all the colour palettes and I really love a soft summer, and I have just decided that that's a palette that I will use to influence my fabric choices moving forward, and colour choices, sorry. Because I do want to expand on my wardrobe, because as I said, I've sewn a lot of basics and a lot of neutrals, and I feel like maybe now's the time to start being a bit braver and introducing a few more like fun things or signature things. That was a bit of a tangent, wasn't it? But yeah, if people have had their colours done and really rate it, then let me know. It's just really expensive, and I don't want to do it and then be like, well, I've decided I'm going to wear these colours anyway. And with the soft summer palette, the colours I'm being drawn to are in that palette. So I think that is saying something. I think you're naturally drawn to things that will hopefully suit you. So yeah, anyway, this colour, this DK yarn, so this was curated by Sarah Hatton apparently with West Yorkshire Spinners, and I brought 6 skeins of this because I want to make the Ava cardigan by Petite Knit. So yeah, the reason I was umming and ahhing is because this is a little bit of a departure from my normal colour in my wardrobe. Graham is a great enabler and he was saying like, even if I just wear this at home, it'd be a great cardigan, and it will, and I'm sure I will like it and love it. And you know, a colourful cardigan, it was funny, I was in the shop like, oh, I don't know what I'd wear it with. I was wearing a pair of black trousers with a white shirt and a blue cardigan. I could have just put on a pink cardigan instead. Like, there will definitely be stuff in my wardrobe that I do wear with it. And my V-neck sweater from My Favourite Things Knitwear in a dusty pink is like one of my favourite things that I've made for myself, and again took me out my normal colour range, but I love it. So I'm hoping that'll be the same for the Ava cardigan. So when we went back in, I picked up the skeins for this. The person in the shop was very helpful. She was lovely, and she, when I was at the till looking at that, I also noticed to the side that West Yorkshire Spinners have also just released a pattern book. I think they've just released a pattern book with designs like William Morris designs, and I was just looking at it and I was like, oh, these are really beautiful. And we had a chat about colour work, and I was saying like, I do love colour work, but some of the designs in there were just a bit too far for me and what I wear. But she said, have a look at the yarn, and I had walked past it and not really noticed it, but the colour palette was lovely, and so I ended up buying some. She did a great job. I bought more yarn. So the first colour that instantly caught my eye was this bluey colour. It's called Hyacinth, and it's like a really nice pale blue. So I look again like dusty blues, desaturated blue colours. It's beautiful. And one thing I have been wanting to knit for quite a while is the Olga sweater by Petite Knit. I sound like I'm just a Petite Knit fan, which I am. She does really just like basic jumpers and knitwear, and that's what I like. I don't like frilly, fancy, over the top stuff. So I was like, okay, cool, that could be one of the colours. There was a navy that I considered getting to go with this, but it just looked too harsh a contrast. And then there was also a white, but again, it just looked too stark. So Graham and I were sort of playing with different colour combos in the shop, and we ended up going for the linseed colour next to it, which linseed is like a taupe, beigey into brown colour. And this is a colour actually again in the soft summer palette that I don't actually have a lot of, but I do get drawn to it a lot. So I think these two will be a good addition. Oh, sorry, it has gone really dark now. Moody, atmospheric. So yeah, this will become an Olga sweater, and I'm very happy about that. And I hope it will look as nice as I think it will knit up. In the shop we were sort of squishing them and layering them on top of each other. So I got, I think, 6 of this one and 5 of this one. So this will be my main colour, and this will be the other one. And again, I had some reservations about the idea of knitting a stripy jumper, because I feel like that's a statement in and of itself. I mean, this has to I wear so many stripes, but a stripy jumper, whoa. But no, I think this will make a good addition. And actually this colour, like I said, is one that I want to start introducing more. This like a naturally colour. I think it's really nice, and it'd be really interesting to knit with this yarn because it's newly out. So it's a Morris yarn, I should have said, in a DK weight. So yeah, so that's everything that I've been working on, that I've been knitting, sewing, buying. Yeah, it's been a really nice couple of weeks being off work and actually having time to be creative, doing creative things. It's nice to sit and talk about creativity and making stuff. So hopefully you find it interesting. I'd love to know what you're making, so let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, do give it a like, do let people know about it, and hopefully you'll be here for the next one.